Hey, you're listening to Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0. We'll kick it straight off with this day in history. Back in 1997, WWE were over in England for their one-night-only pay-per-view. There was a couple of title matches there. Shawn Michaels managed to defeat the British Bulldog for the European title, and Bret Hart managed to retain his WWF title against The Undertaker by DQ. In 1999, there was a WCW Nitro. The main event, Flair won by DQ versus Diamond Dallas Page after Sting, Lex Luger, and Hulk Hogan interfered. At the same time, over on Raw, Triple H and Chyna took on Shane and Vince McMahon, but that kind of just ended in a massive brawl, sort of like over on Nitro. In 2004, the Nexus was sort of reaching their peak. John Cena took on the whole group in a gauntlet match. He managed to knock off Heath Slater, David Otunga, and Michael Tarver before the rest of them got in on the Justin Gabriel fall, but Cena managed to fight off a possible brawl when the rest of the roster came to his rescue. 2009, TNA had a No Surrender pay-per-view. Their main event was a 5-way match for the TNA World Heavyweight Championship. AJ Styles managed to defeat Kurt Angle, Matt Morgan, Sting, and Hernandez to claim the title. In 2010, kind of ironically, Christy Hemme won the Raw Diva Search, and now she's over in TNA being a ring announcer. And talking of TNA, in 2012, the show ended when Bully Ray had just defeated Austin Aries, but then Jeff Hardy shoves his nose in, and it sets up a 3-way match for their next pay-per-view. So we'll jump into the classic entrance theme of the week. It's Gold Dust. Hey, you're back with Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0. That was Gold Dust entrance theme. You're with Grady, Hooker, and live via Skype I've got Josh.
Hi.
If we talk about the Raw before Night of Champions first, there was quite a few revelations on that Raw.
Yeah, it was an interesting, very interesting Raw before the pay-per-view.
We got to see the return of Gold Dust.
One of my all-time favorite wrestlers. Just he was pure natural in the ring, and he looked like he hadn't missed a step in the 3 years he'd been gone.
Yeah, and talking about returners, we also got the return of Santino Marella.
Oh man, I was happy to see him. I'd missed Santino.
Okay. He didn't get a match on the card, although he was pushed onto the panel for the pay-per-view.
Santino's always going to be more of a personality than he is a wrestler, although he is a really good wrestler.
Fair enough.
He's always going to be used for personality purposes.
Yeah. We did finally see Daniel Bryan standing victorious at the end of the Raw as well.
Yep. Finally, once, Daniel Bryan got one over on Corporate Evolution. He took it to him.
And again, I think he took it to him again, but we'll jump over to the pay-per-view now. Did you see the kickoff match, the Tag Team Turmoil one?
Yeah, it was... I saw parts of it. It was interesting. It felt a little rushed to me a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. But with each part, and it was interesting to see the Patriot lock, the ankle lock, actually work and work twice.
Yeah.
But in the end, what you could have only have expected out of this match happened, with the primetime players winning the match.
Yeah, it was a predictable end, but it was like over in a flash. I would have liked to seen it stretched out a bit more with some actual wrestling in between it.
Yeah, but that was kind of hard to do with 5 teams, though. That may have been the whole problem with it.
Maybe. We actually started up the pay-per-view itself with Triple H coming out.
This was a very confusing promo because this didn't seem to work at all with his character.
No.
But it had 2 purposes. One, it was to tell us that absolutely under no circumstances was there going to be any interference in the main event. And 2, it was to get Curtis Axel to defend his Intercontinental Championship for you, Jim.
Yes!
Grady.
Just for me! They
Yep,
did
for
so.
you.
Just for me. That I was literally ecstatic and bouncing off the walls when they said that. And I didn't really care who it was against. A little predictable for it to be Kofi, but the title was on the card. I was happy, and you could have finished the pay-per-view there, and I would have been alright.
And it only made sense for Curtis Axel to retain the Intercontinental Championship, because he had to prove himself worthy for his match later on with Punk. Otherwise, what would be the point of having that match?
Yeah. He has to prove himself to the completely unshaven Heyman.
And unwashed.
Yeah. Then we got a weird sort of promo backstage with RVD and Ricardo speaking some Spanish.
Yeah. I still don't see where they're going with this pairing.
No. They don't work to me at all, unless this is leading up to a Ricardo flipping on RVD back to Alberto.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, we'll talk about it a little bit later. This is not over.
Yeah. Okay, AJ sets up her match with the for a title on the line.
I'm actually very shocked by the outcome of this match.
I'm not.
I know. But I thought for certain they were going to change the title here so that they would have something for the beginning of part 2 of the season for Total Divas.
Yeah. But they didn't.
No, there were a couple of really bad moments in this match, though. The first was the cross-body attempt Naomi made that was clearly really bad.
Yeah.
That wasn't supposed to go the way it went.
No.
The other was Brie Bella laying on top of Naomi and the referee not counting.
Yeah. The referees are pretty slack nowadays.
Yeah, that was really weird, but it was excellent to see Natalya put him into a double sharpshooter.
Yeah.
That was kind of neat.
I think if AJ didn't break that up, one of them was going to tap in like a millisecond.
I think they both were going to tap at the same time.
Yeah. But yeah, that's the next match is the one we were talking about. Alberto defending his title against RVD.
I thought this would actually be a later match in the card, but it kind of worked here. These two, they did well together. Del Rio pulled out the villain tactics and got himself disqualified.
Yeah.
So he got to retain his World Heavyweight Championship. And as the match went on, I had a moment where I was like, oh, totally forgot about this being pretty much Rob Van Dam's hometown.
Yeah.
He's not winning the championship.
At any point in the aftermatch beatdown, did you go, this is Sandow's time, he is coming out?
I was like, why isn't he coming out after RVD hit the Van Terminator?
I know.
I'm like, this is the perfect moment.
He must have been, like, asleep backstage.
Or maybe he was too busy eating his briefcase.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be a joke until he actually cashes in.
Probably. But, yeah, those two will probably have a rematch coming up, but, yeah, it was an alright match between the two. Up next, there was a sort of weird promo between Triple H and Randy Orton.
Yeah, basically, Triple H is telling Orton he's on his own and that he has to prove himself as the person to be the face of the company.
Yeah, he might not be the right guy.
Because he wants to make sure he has the right person. I think the right person that they have in mind is the Legend Killer Orton.
The Ruthless Orton.
Yeah, the one that DDT'd Stephanie and kissed her.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see later on the show, but for now we'll jump to the current entrance theme of the week. It's Santino Morella's. And you're back with Wrestling Roundup, FreeFM 89.0, Grady and Josh. We'll jump on into where we left off. And sort of impromptu match here. Fandango took on The Miz.
This was way too long of a match. And I feel that this match wasn't really needed, and two, it took away from potential time from the United States and tag team title matches.
Yeah, we definitely could have done without it. It wasn't that good of a match between the two. I'd seen it before.
Yeah, I'm way over this feud. I don't care anymore. And I honestly, I get the feeling Fandango's never going to be taken seriously.
Fair enough. The next match, though, one that we've had planned for a while, CM Punk took on the handicap team of Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman.
Yeah, we got to see quite a bit of back and forth between Axel and Punk. I think Axel really showed a lot of what he can do in this match. But of course, we all knew he was not going to beat Punk.
Nah, he'd already had a match.
Yeah, so that they gave him a built-in excuse for losing the match with Punk.
Yeah. Well, Axel tapped out to the Anaconda Vice, which kind of meant that Punk just beat the shit out of Pulverus.
Yes, the Walrus got himself a beating he'll never forget.
But then so did Punk.
Fortunately for him, and maybe unfortunately for Punk, Punk didn't finish the job.
No.
Because he got freight trained by the newest Heyman guy, Ryback.
I think you'd been saying this for a few weeks, that Heyman would come out with a contingency plan.
Yeah, it was. They had to. Honestly, they had to, because I felt that this was not over with between Heyman and Punk, and I felt that they needed, and I felt Heyman needed a big, strong fella out of the Lesnar mold to hold Heyman over until Lesnar returns.
Fair enough. It made sense, and we got it. You've also been saying,
and so the record books will forever show Paul Heyman pinned CM Punk.
Yeah. You've also been saying for a few weeks that you've checked out on everything Ryback. Have you checked back in?
I cracked the door open.
Okay. Jumping to the next match, I think we transitioned to it quite fast. The US title match.
Yeah, another effect of the Miz Fandango match.
Yeah.
Everything seemed to be so slow that night.
Hmm.
I'm not sure what was going on, but it just seemed like everything was just not flowing properly. And this was a great match between Ambrose and Ziggler. It just felt constrained by time, though.
Yeah, it's the stupid thing.
And I think they would have given us a twice as good match if they had 5 more minutes.
Yeah. They should just extend pay-per-views to 4 hours.
But then we'd probably still end up with the same thing, and there'd be people complaining that 4 hours is too long for a wrestling program.
Psh. I'd sit down and watch 4 hours.
Just like people complain about 3-hour Raws.
Fair enough. But yeah, Ambrose ended up retaining, as did his Shield cohorts.
I was shocked that they didn't change the titles, but I'm not surprised they didn't. I thought pretty sure that the Primetime Players were ready for the titles, and I felt that this was their moment. But obviously the Shield aren't done with the titles.
The Primetime Players got their moment. I think they put on quite a good match.
Yeah.
But again, they'd been in a match earlier.
Yeah. I thought that they would really... and what's one thing that really shocked me during this match was to hear how over the Primetime Players are.
Millions of dollars. Millions of dollars.
And especially Titus O'Neil.
Yeah.
That really shocked me. Because they hear the whole crowd getting into his bark.
Yeah. I know that there's one person in our household that cannot stand the primetime players, but it doesn't seem that the rest of the WWE universe agree with her.
But they they're both very talented. Titus O'Neil has the classic look for a superstar. I'm not sure if he has the ability, but he has the look.
And Darren will pick up the ability.
And, yeah, Darren has the ability, but he doesn't really have the look. And I'm not that sure on his personality. That is something Titus definitely has in droves, his personality.
They're the perfect storm.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see where they end up once the tag team runs its course and they split to go their separate ways.
Yep. Okay, well, ignoring the match that we're about to talk about, just point out that up till now, every single champion has retained.
Which was actually very shocking. I expected at least one title change, but I was not expecting the title that changed hands to change hands.
No, I got to admit, I said if Ambrose retained his title, that's it. They were retaining every single title.
Yeah, and honestly, nobody expected the outcome for the main event to be the outcome that happened.
No, we'll move on to it. The WWE Championship match. The long-awaited Bryan getting his hands on Randy Orton for the title.
This match saved the show overall. At this point, up to this point, it was a lackluster and mediocre pay-per-view.
Yeah.
This match made it a C+ pay-per-view.
Fair enough.
It was definitely something that brought it up, and these two really tore the house down. I enjoyed a lot of the back and forth stuff between Orton and Bryan. So used to saying Cena, I started to say it again.
Yeah, fair enough. Great match between the two. Both bought their A+ game.
And the ending, I know everybody online was like, what? When Daniel Bryan nailed the knees, pinned Orton, and then proceeded to walk out of the arena with the WWE Championship.
What? That does not work. I'm like flipping around.
Yeah, everybody was expecting it's time to play the game, and for Triple H to immediately restart the match, and Orton surprise RKO 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
The reason everybody was expecting it was because the ending pinfall was a fast count.
Fast count. I didn't notice the fast count too much
until they showed you the replay of the actual 1, 2, 3.
Pretty much.
But nobody said anything about it, and Bryan walks out with the WWE Championship.
There's going to be hell to pay over on Raw.
Yeah. Honestly, I expect them to go with the Y2J Triple H 2000 story, where the Triple H brings out a referee and brings out Scott Armstrong, the referee, and tells him to reverse the decision.
Yeah, good old Scotty.
Yeah, the senior referee.
But ignoring the completely surprising ending, it was a great sort of end to the pay-per-view. It had everybody happy for the most part.
Bryan finally got his moment. His moment in the sun to celebrate his achievement.
But no confetti this time.
Nope.
We want confetti. Wish I had confetti here in the studio.
Yep, we don't have any balloons for him either.
Nah. I know straight after this match I was on the phone just like, what the hell just happened? And everybody was just out of it. And again, Mum was not too happy.
Because Orton's title reign ended at a month.
Yeah. It's the problem with living with a Orton fan. She doesn't respect the bird. But looking ahead to Battleground, what are we seeing happening there?
We're obviously going to have another Orton-Bryan match for the WWE Championship. The question is who will be the champion going into that match?
And the second question is, who will be the ref?
Yeah. And if it's Scott Armstrong, expect a screw job finish.
Yeah.
There's no way around that one. I also expect I expect the Shield to play a major part in this pay-per-view.
6-man tag.
And it could be a 6-man tag.
Winner takes all.
No.
Damn.
But it could possibly be the Rhodes family versus the Shield.
Fair enough. Will they have lost their titles by this point, or?
Well, it's only 3 weeks.
Nah.
So you do the math.
We've seen people lose titles in 10 seconds. Not talking about anybody. But yeah, it could happen. They could biff it on a Raw, make them lose their titles.
We'll have to see how they work that out. This is a really bad time because they've got 3 weeks between now and Battleground, and then 3 weeks from that to Hell in a Cell.
Yeah, they definitely smushed them up.
And the reason I'm having trouble saying Battleground is because I was so used to saying what the previous name was, Over the Limit, which was one of my favorite prediction pay-per-views.
Yeah, that's why they got rid of it, just to screw you over.
Yes.
But
they knew I was going to win if they kept it.
Yeah, fair enough. But why'd they even change it? What was wrong with Over the Limit?
I don't really know. It was one of those weird things. They changed the date that Over the Limit happens. Over the Limit was the May pay-per-view. They did away with the May pay-per-view, or they did away with the April one and moved Extreme Rules back to May, and moved Over the Limit to October. And then suddenly they decided, out of nowhere, we're going to call it WWE Battleground.
Hold on, I think I just figured it out. We've been saying it so much. Over the Limit. Is it a DUI reference?
It could be. And that may be why they changed it, because of Jack frickin' Swagger.
I just cracked the code. It all makes sense.
But now they've opened themselves up to a lot of speculation that, they're going to do War Games because it's called Battleground.
Fair enough. Could go either way.
I'll be highly shocked if they ever do a War Games match in my lifetime.
Okay. Well, we'll go to the birthdays now. And in birthdays this week, we've got current WWE Authority figure Teddy Long turning 66.
And we have a current Ring of Honor Authority figure, Jim Cornette. He turns 51 this week.
We've got Hall of Famer class of 2012 Arn Anderson turning 55.
Gerald Briscoe of the Briscoe Brothers, who turned 66 this week. He is a Hall of Famer with the class of 2008, also along with his brother.
And finally, Greg the Hammer Valentine, another Hall of Famer, class of 2004, and he's turning 62. And over in New Japan Pro Wrestling, Bad Luck Fale's Bullet Club ended up winning a 6-man tag at their Road to Destruction show. Jumping to Australia, New Zealand wrestlers TK Cooper and Pat Shisk wrestled for Adelaide's Snake Pit Wrestling. Although TK Cooper had won his other 2 matches, when they decided to team with Jonah Rock to take on Damian Slater, Wrecking Ball Wilson, and Kiwi expat Link Barnett, they ended up losing. Although Cooper did hit Barnett with a scissor kick, but it turned out Barnett wasn't the legal man, and Damian Slater came in and hit a Slaterly to pick up the win for his team. In New Zealand, Maniacs United had a Maniacs Strike Back show. The main event, Just Plain Evil managed to defeat Dan Stryker when she pinned them after a chair shot to the head. And coming up this Saturday in the Linfield Rec Centre, IPW have their next show, Sacrifice or Surrender. The main event, James Shaw and Kingy with Dion McCracken will take on Vinnie Dunn and Ty Cade with Steve Wrigley. The IPW Tag Team Championships will also be on the line, where TNT take on Jacob Cross and Aaron Henry. We've got 2 women's matches with Evie taking on Megan Kate and Brittany taking on Olivia Shaw. And we've got a couple more matches with Antonio taking on Mason Daniels and Elias taking on Pat Shisk. So that's it for Wrestling Roundup this week. Visit our Facebook page, facebook.com/Wrestling Roundup Radio, and our Twitter page, twitter.com/Wrestling R Radio, and I'll see you next week.